The sound of morning chatter filled the high school hallways. Lockers slammed shut, sneakers squeaked against the polished floors, and laughter rippled through groups of teenagers exchanging jokes and stories from the weekend. Yet, amidst the usual chaos, one figure moved like an island in the middle of a rushing stream. Liam Harper adjusted the straps of his oversized black helmet as he walked down the hall, his head low, avoiding eye contact with anyone. His attire was unassuming: jeans, sneakers, and a plain hoodie, but it was the helmet that made heads turn. Whispers followed him wherever he went. Why is he still wearing that thing? Does he think he's in some kind of superhero movie? Maybe he's hiding something. Or someone. Liam had heard it all before, but he didn't care. Or at least, that's what he told himself. Keeping his head down, he maneuvered through the crowd like a shadow. He avoided the glances, the questions, the laughter. The helmet wasn't just a physical shield. It was his armor against the world. A mysterious beginning. It wasn't always this way for Liam. In fact, just a year ago, he had been one of the most popular kids in school. Handsome, charming, and seemingly always in the center of attention, he had a natural charisma that drew people in. Girls admired him, boys wanted to be his friends, and teachers often praised his wit and intelligence. He was the kind of person who lit up a room simply by walking into it. But somewhere along the way, things had gone terribly wrong. No one knew exactly why Liam had started wearing the helmet, and he wasn't about to explain. It had begun over the summer break. He'd shown up on the first day of school with the helmet firmly strapped on and a quiet determination not to engage with anyone who asked about it. His close friends tried to talk to him at first, but Liam shut them out. Slowly, the crowd around him thinned until he was entirely alone. The rumors began. With no answers from Liam, the students did what students do best. They speculated. Rumors spread like wildfire. I heard he got into a motorcycle accident and has a huge scar on his face. No way. My cousin said he's in some kind of secret witness protection program. Or maybe he's just a weirdo who can't handle being dumped. Remember Sarah? She cried for weeks because of him. The last rumor hit closest to the truth, though not in the way people thought. Liam had indeed been involved with Sarah, a sweet and soft-spoken girl who had been head over heels for him. But their brief relationship had ended in tears, and Sarah wasn't the only one. Over the past year, Liam had unintentionally hurt more people than he cared to admit. He wasn't cruel. He just hadn't realized the weight of his actions until it was too late. It wasn't just Sarah. Other girls had fallen for his effortless charm, only to find themselves heartbroken when Liam didn't reciprocate their feelings as deeply as they had hoped. He hadn't meant to hurt anyone, but his indifference was perceived as arrogance, and his popularity began to feel more like a curse than a blessing. The final straw. The turning point came at the end of the previous school year. The confrontation with another student, Mia, had left Liam reeling. Mia was a shy girl who had written Liam a heartfelt letter confessing her feelings. Instead of responding with kindness or consideration, Liam had laughed it off with his friends, not out of malice, but sheer awkwardness. Unfortunately, Mia had overheard. Her words that day echoed in his mind even months later. "You think this is a joke, Liam? Do you have any idea how much courage it took me to write that letter? You don't care about anyone but yourself." Liam's stomach had twisted with guilt as Mia walked away, tears streaming down her face. He wanted to apologize, to explain that he hadn't meant to hurt her, but the damage was done. From that moment on, he couldn't shake the feeling that his presence brought more harm than good. The helmet became his solution. If he couldn't stop people from noticing him, he could at least make it harder for them to get close. It was an unconventional barrier, but for Liam, it was necessary. He couldn't break any more hearts if he kept the world at arm's length. A new school year. As the months rolled on, the helmet became part of Liam's identity. Teachers initially protested, insisting he remove it during class, but Liam refused. Eventually, they gave up, chalking it up to some teenage phase. His classmates, however, weren't as understanding. On the first day of the new school year, the whispers started again. Seriously, he's still wearing that thing. Maybe he's trying to make a statement or something. Do you think he even washes his hair under there? Liam ignored them all. He had grown used to the comments, the stares, the laughter. He had built a wall around himself, and he wasn't about to let anyone break through. That is, until Clara arrived. Enter Clara. Clara Thompson was the new kid, bright-eyed, curious, and unafraid to ask questions. On her first day, she noticed Liam immediately. How could she not? He stood out like a sore thumb in the bustling hallway, his helmet glinting under the fluorescent lights. During lunch, while most students kept their distance from Liam's solitary table, Clara did the unthinkable. She walked over and sat down across from him. "Hi," she said, her voice warm and friendly. "I'm Clara. You're Liam, right?" Liam looked up briefly but didn't respond. He wasn't sure what to make of her. Most people avoided him, but Clara seemed genuinely curious. "Cool helmet," she continued, undeterred. "Are you into motocross or something?" Liam finally spoke, his voice muffled by the helmet. "No." "Then why do you wear it?" Clara asked, leaning forward. "It must get uncomfortable after a while." Liam hesitated. He could feel her gaze on him, but he didn't want to answer. Instead, he shrugged and muttered, "Just because." Clara tilted her head, studying him. "Fair enough. But you know, if you ever want to talk about it, I'm a pretty good listener." A small crack in the armor. Over the next few weeks, Clara kept her promise. She didn't push Liam to explain himself, but she also didn't treat him like an outcast. She greeted him in the hallways, sat with him at lunch, and occasionally shared funny stories about her old school. Slowly, Liam found himself looking forward to her company, even if he didn't say much. One day, as they sat under a tree during lunch, Clara asked him a question that caught him off guard. "Do you ever feel like people don't see the real you?" Liam looked at her, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I mean, sometimes people make assumptions about who you are based on how you look or act. But that's not always the whole story, right?" Clara smiled gently. "I think everyone deserves a chance to be understood." For the first time in months, Liam felt a flicker of something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, someone could see past the helmet and understand the boy underneath. Cliffhanger ending for Part 1. As Clara packed up her things to head back to class, she paused and looked at Liam. "By the way, there's a charity event this weekend. You should come. It might be fun." Liam hesitated. He hadn't attended a social event in months, but something about Clara's invitation made him consider it. "I'll think about it," he said finally. Clara grinned. "Good. I'll see you there." As she walked away, Liam touched the edge of his helmet. For the first time, he wondered if maybe it was time to let go of his armor. The charity event was set for Saturday afternoon, hosted in the expansive garden of the local community center. Vibrant banners fluttered in the breeze. Tables overflowed with baked goods, and laughter echoed from the game booths scattered across the grounds. The air buzzed with the kind of cheerful energy Liam hadn't experienced in a long time. But despite Clara's friendly insistence, he almost didn't come. A reluctant step. Saturday morning found Liam sitting on the edge of his bed, staring at the helmet resting on his desk. The familiar urge to stay home washed over him. It was easier this way. No awkward conversations, no judgmental stares, no chance of being reminded of the mistakes he wanted so desperately to forget. But Clara's voice echoed in his mind. "Sometimes people make assumptions about who you are. Everyone deserves a chance to be understood." It wasn't the words themselves, but the sincerity in her eyes when she'd said them. She wasn't just inviting him to an event. She was giving him an opportunity to start again. Taking a deep breath, Liam picked up the helmet and slipped it on. He wasn't ready to face the world without it just yet, but maybe this was a step in the right direction. Arriving at the event, the moment Liam walked into the garden, he felt the weight of 100 eyes on him. Conversations paused, and people whispered as he passed. He clenched his fists, resisting the urge to turn around and leave. Clara spotted him almost immediately. She waved enthusiastically, weaving through the crowd to meet him. "You made it," she exclaimed, her excitement so genuine that Liam couldn't help but smile beneath the visor. "I said I'd think about it," he replied quietly. "Guess I thought yes." "Well, I'm glad you did," Clara said. "Come on, let me show you around." As Clara led him through the event, introducing him to volunteers and explaining the various activities, Liam felt the stares begin to fade. Clara had a way of making people feel at ease, and her energy was infectious. For the first time in months, Liam felt like he belonged somewhere, even if he was still hiding behind his helmet. An unexpected connection. At one booth, a group of kids was painting flower pots to raise money for the community center's after-school programs. Clara stopped to chat with the organizer, leaving Liam to observe from a distance. A young boy, no older than 7, noticed him and walked over. "Are you a superhero?" the boy asked, his eyes wide with curiosity. Liam blinked, caught off guard. "What?" "The helmet," the boy said matter-of-factly. "Superheroes wear helmets or masks, so people don't know who they are. Do you have powers?" Liam chuckled softly. "No powers, kid. Just a regular guy." The boy tilted his head, considering this. "But you're hiding something, right? That's what superheroes do." Liam didn't know how to respond. Before he could think of an answer, Clara returned, having overheard part of the conversation. "Sometimes people wear helmets because they're protecting something important," she said gently, looking at Liam. "Or someone." The boy nodded solemnly, as if this made perfect sense, then scampered off to join his friends. Liam met Clara's gaze, feeling an odd mixture of gratitude and vulnerability. She didn't press him for an explanation, but her words lingered in his mind. The turning point. As the afternoon wore on, Liam found himself relaxing. He helped Clara at the lemonade stand, chatted with a few volunteers, and even played a round of ring toss with the kids. For a moment, he forgot about the helmet and the walls he'd built around himself. But the past has a way of creeping back when you least expect it. Near the end of the event, Liam was helping Clara pack up when he heard a familiar voice behind him. Well, if it isn't the Heartbreaker himself. Liam froze. He turned slowly to see Sarah standing a few feet away, her arms crossed. Her tone was light, but her eyes were guarded. Liam's stomach churned with guilt. Of all the people he hoped to avoid, Sarah was at the top of the list. "Sarah," he said quietly, "I didn't know you'd be here." "Yeah, well, I volunteer here sometimes," she replied, her gaze flicking to the helmet. "Still wearing that thing, huh?" Liam didn't respond. He could feel Clara's curious eyes on him. But she said nothing, giving him the space to handle the situation on his own. A confrontation. Sarah took a step closer, her voice softening. "Look, Liam, I'm not here to rehash the past, but I've always wondered, why? Why did you push everyone away?" Liam hesitated. For months, he had avoided this question, even in his own mind. But standing here, surrounded by the warmth and kindness of the community, he felt a spark of courage. "Because I didn't want to hurt anyone else," he admitted. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled slightly. "I thought, if I stayed away, I couldn't mess things up anymore." Sarah studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then, to Liam's surprise, she smiled. "You know, you're not as invincible as everyone thought you were. But that's not a bad thing." Liam felt a weight lift from his chest. Sarah's words weren't absolution, but they were enough to help him take another step forward. A moment of reflection. As the sun began to set, Liam and Clara sat on a bench overlooking the garden. The event was winding down, and most of the volunteers had gone home. Clara broke the comfortable silence. "Sarah seems nice," she said casually. "She is," Liam replied. "I didn't mean to hurt her, or anyone." Clara nodded thoughtfully. I don't think you're the person people say you are, Liam. I think you're just someone who got lost for a while. Liam turned to her, surprised. Why do you care so much? Clara smiled, her eyes warm. Because I know what it's like to feel misunderstood. And because I think everyone deserves a chance to start over. For the first time, Liam felt a flicker of hope. Maybe Clara was right. Maybe he wasn't as broken as he thought. The following Monday, the school was abuzz with chatter about the weekend charity event. Everyone who had been there had noticed Liam. After months of keeping his distance, he had stepped into the spotlight, helmet and all. It was as though a character from a storybook had suddenly walked into their real lives. But not everyone was kind in their observations. The gossip mill. Liam's presence at the event sparked a wave of new rumors. As he made his way down the hall that morning, snippets of whispered conversations followed him. Did you see him at the charity thing? Still wearing that helmet? Maybe he thinks it's a personality now. Clara was with him. I bet she's trying to fix him or something. Liam kept his head down, focusing on getting to class. He had grown used to the comments, but something about the mention of Clara made him uneasy. He didn't want her dragged into his mess. Clara, however, seemed unfazed. At lunch, she plopped down at their usual table with her tray and a smile. I heard the rumors, she said cheerfully. Apparently, I'm your therapist now. Liam groaned, sinking lower into his seat. I didn't ask for this attention. Well, it's hard to avoid when you show up to a public event wearing a helmet. Clara teased, though her tone was light. But honestly, I think it's good. People are curious about you. Maybe that's a sign they're ready to understand. Liam shook his head. They don't want to understand. They just want something to talk about. Clara studied him for a moment before responding. Maybe. Or maybe they're waiting for you to give them something real. A difficult encounter. That afternoon, Liam's resolve was tested. During gym class, he was paired with Josh, one of the more vocal critics of his helmet-wearing habit. Josh had been part of Liam's old friend group, but their relationship had soured when Liam pulled away from everyone. Nice helmet, Josh said as they stretched for warm-ups. Planning to run a marathon in that, or is it just for show? Liam ignored him, focusing on his stretches. Josh smirked, undeterred. Come on, man. We used to be friends. What's the deal with this whole lone wolf thing? You think you're too good for the rest of us now. Liam's jaw tightened. It's not about being too good. I just needed space. Space. Josh laughed, shaking his head. Whatever, dude. You do you. Just don't expect people to wait around forever. Liam didn't respond, but Josh's words struck a nerve. He had been so focused on avoiding further pain that he hadn't considered how his absence might have hurt others. It was a sobering thought. Clara's challenge. After school, Clara found Liam sitting on a bench near the football field, still wearing his helmet. She approached quietly, holding 2 paper cups of hot chocolate. Figured you could use this, she said, handing him one. You looked like you were ready to explode in gym today. Liam sighed, taking the cup but not drinking from it. Josh doesn't get it. No one does. Maybe that's because you don't let them, Clara said gently. You can't expect people to understand what you're going through if you don't give them a chance. Liam frowned. What if they don't care? What if they just want more reasons to judge me? Clara sat beside him, her expression thoughtful. You can't control how people react, but you can control how much power you give their opinions. Right now, it feels like you're living your life, based on what you think everyone else expects from you. Her words hung in the air, heavy with truth. Liam didn't respond, but deep down, he knew she was right. A new challenge. That evening, Clara sent Liam a text. There's a volunteer opportunity at the community center this week. They need help organizing supplies for the after-school program. You in? Liam stared at the message for a long time. Volunteering meant more exposure, more questions, more chances for people to judge him. But it also meant more time with Clara, who seemed determined to help him find himself again. After a moment, He typed back a simple response. "I'll think about it." The next day, Clara didn't bring it up until the very end of lunch. "So, any thoughts on the volunteer thing?" Liam hesitated before nodding. "I'll do it, but only because they need the help." Clara grinned. "I'll take that as a win." The first step. The community center was quieter than it had been during the charity event, but it still buzzed with activity. Volunteers sorted through boxes of donated school supplies, organizing them into neat stacks. Clara introduced Liam to the coordinator, a friendly woman named Mrs. Bennett, who welcomed him warmly. "We're glad to have you, Liam," Mrs. Bennett said. "Just let me know if you need anything." As the hours passed, Liam found himself surprisingly at ease. Sorting supplies was repetitive but calming, and working alongside Clara made the time fly. Occasionally, other volunteers would glance at his helmet, but no one said anything. It was a small victory. At one point, Clara nudged him and whispered, "See, not so bad, right?" Liam gave a small smile. Not bad. An unexpected moment. As the day wound down, Liam noticed a boy struggling to carry a box of books. Without thinking, he walked over and offered to help. The boy, who introduced himself as Alex, thanked him shyly. "You're the guy with the helmet, right?" Alex asked as they carried the box together. "Why do you wear it?" Liam paused, caught off guard by the directness of the question. Before he could come up with an answer, Alex added, "My brother used to wear a hat all the time after he got sick. He said it made him feel safer." Something about Alex's honesty made Liam feel a pang of guilt for his own silence. "It's kind of like that," he said finally. "It helps me feel safe." Alex nodded as if this made perfect sense. "That's cool. My brother said you should never let anyone make you feel bad about what makes you feel better." For the first time, Liam felt like someone understood, even if only a little. The following week felt different for Liam. After the unexpected moment of connection with Alex at the community center, something had shifted within him. For the first time in months, the helmet didn't feel as much like armor. It felt like a weight he was starting to outgrow. But taking it off was easier said than done. A new invitation. On Tuesday morning, Clara approached Liam at his locker with her usual bright smile. "Guess what?" she said, bouncing slightly on her heels. Liam raised an eyebrow. "What now?" "The student council is hosting an open mic night on Friday," Clara said. "It's a fundraiser for the art program. I signed us up to volunteer." Liam blinked. "Us?" "Yep," Clara said cheerfully. "You'll help me set up, and maybe we'll even perform something together." "Perform?" Liam repeated, his voice rising an octave. "Absolutely not." "Relax," Clara said, laughing. "I'm kidding about the performing part, but seriously, it'll be fun. Besides, I already told Mrs. Bennett you'd help." Liam sighed, though he couldn't help the small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. Clara had a way of pushing him out of his comfort zone without making him feel pressured. "Fine. I'll help." "Great," Clara said, giving him a thumbs up. "You won't regret it." Facing the spotlight. By the time Friday evening rolled around, Liam was second-guessing his decision. The school auditorium buzzed with excitement as students and parents filed in, eager for the performances to begin. The stage was adorned with fairy lights, and a makeshift cafe setup offered refreshments in the back. Liam stuck to the shadows, helping Clara arrange chairs and organize the concession stand. He kept his helmet on, avoiding eye contact with the growing crowd. "You okay?" Clara asked as she handed him a stack of napkins. "Yeah," Liam muttered, "just not a fan of big crowds." Clara gave him a reassuring pat on the shoulder. "You're doing great. And hey, no one's staring. They're too busy enjoying the snacks." Liam glanced around. To his surprise, Clara was right. The energy in the room was focused on the stage, not him. It was a small comfort. A familiar face. As the night progressed, Liam found himself relaxing. The performances were surprisingly good, ranging from poetry readings to acoustic guitar sets. Clara, ever the extrovert, mingled with the crowd, leaving Liam to man the concession stand. That's when he saw her, Mia. Mia was the girl whose confrontation had marked the beginning of his downward spiral. Seeing her now, Liam felt a rush of guilt. She looked different, more confident, with a group of friends who seemed genuinely happy to be around her. Mia caught his gaze and froze for a moment. Then, to Liam's surprise, she smiled and started walking toward him. An uncomfortable conversation. "Hi, Liam," Mia said, her tone friendly but cautious. "It's been a while." "Yeah," Liam replied, feeling awkward. "How've you been?" "Pretty good," Mia said. "I heard you've been volunteering at the community center." "That's cool." Liam nodded, unsure of what to say. Finally, he blurted out, "Look, Mia, I owe you an apology. For everything. I didn't mean to hurt you. I don't know. Stupid, I guess." Mia studied him for a moment, then smiled softly. "You don't have to explain, Liam. I've moved on. But I appreciate you saying that." Liam felt a wave of relief. "Thanks. And I'm glad you're doing okay." Mia nodded and glanced at his helmet. "You know, you don't have to hide forever. People will surprise you if you give them the chance." With that, she rejoined her friends, leaving Liam to process her words. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was time to take a step toward vulnerability. The turning point. As the night wore on, Clara returned to the concession stand, grinning. "You'll never guess who just signed up for the open mic." "Please don't say you," Liam said, though he wasn't surprised. "Guilty as charged," Clara said, laughing. "I'm doing a short poem. Nothing fancy." "You're braver than me," Liam muttered. Clara tilted her head, studying him. "You know, I think you're braver than you realize. You just don't see it yet." Before Liam could respond, the MC announced Clara's name. She gave Liam a quick thumbs up and bounded toward the stage. Clara's performance. Clara's poem was short but powerful, a heartfelt piece about finding strength in vulnerability. As she spoke, her words seemed to resonate with Liam in a way he hadn't expected. Sometimes we wear masks to hide the cracks, but the light gets in through the spaces we lack. And though it's scary to show what's inside, true courage is choosing not to hide. The audience erupted into applause as Clara finished, her cheeks flushed with pride. She waved and returned to Liam, beaming. "What did you think?" she asked. "It was amazing," Liam said honestly. "You have a way with words." Clara grinned. "Thanks. Maybe next time, you'll give it a try." Liam chuckled. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. A moment of reflection. As the event wound down, Liam and Clara stayed behind to help clean up. The auditorium was quiet now, the fairy lights casting a warm glow over the empty chairs. "Tonight was good," Liam said, breaking the silence. "I'm glad I came." "Me too," Clara said. "I think you're starting to see what I've been saying all along. People aren't as scary as you think." Liam hesitated before speaking. "It's not just people. It's me. I've been so afraid of messing up again that I forgot how to just be myself." Clara placed a hand on his arm, her expression gentle. "You're not the person you were a year ago, Liam. You're growing, and that's what matters." Liam nodded, her words sinking in. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was time to stop letting fear control them. The helmet comes off. As they finished cleaning up, Clara turned to Liam with a mischievous smile. "So, ready to take the next step?" Liam gave her a questioning look. "What step?" Clara gestured toward his helmet. "You've been hiding behind that thing for months. Don't you think it's time to let people see the real you?" Liam hesitated, his hands instinctively going to the straps. The thought of removing the helmet in front of Clara, and potentially anyone else, made his heart race. But as he looked at her, he saw nothing but encouragement in her eyes. Slowly, Liam began to unbuckle the straps. The room was empty now, and the only sound was the faint hum of the lights. Taking a deep breath, he lifted the helmet off and set it on a nearby chair. Clara's expression softened. "There you are," she said simply. Liam ran a hand through his hair, feeling strangely vulnerable, but also free. "Feels weird," he admitted. "Weird is good," Clara said with a grin. "Weird means you're alive." Liam stood frozen, the helmet clutched under his arm like a lifeline. The group of students stared at him, their expressions a mix of surprise and curiosity. It was a moment he had dreaded for months, yet now that it was here, he realized something startling. He wasn't afraid. At least, not the way he used to be. Clara, sensing his hesitation, stepped closer, her presence grounding him. She didn't say anything, but her steady gaze seemed to say, "You've got this." And for once, Liam believed her. Facing the crowd, one of the students, a boy named Tyler who had been in Liam's science class last year, broke the silence. "No helmet. That's new." Liam shrugged, forcing a casual tone. Figured it was time for a change. Another student, a girl Liam didn't recognize, tilted her head. "Why'd you wear it in the first place?" The question hung in the air, heavy with expectation. Clara glanced at Liam, her expression unreadable. This was the moment, the crossroads where he could either retreat into his shell or step fully into the light. "It's a long story," Liam said finally, his voice steady but quiet. "But I guess I wore it because I thought it made things easier. Turns out, it didn't." Tyler nodded, surprisingly thoughtful. "Well, whatever works for you, man. Glad to see your face again." The group dispersed with little fanfare, their curiosity satisfied. Liam let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "That wasn't so bad," Clara said with a small smile. "No," Liam admitted. "It wasn't. A new kind of challenge." The next day at school, Liam felt the absence of his helmet like a spotlight following him. Everywhere he went, people stared. Some whispered, others openly gawked. It was overwhelming. But Clara had been right. Most of the curiosity came from a place of intrigue rather than malice. At lunch, a group of students approached Liam's table. One of them, a shy girl named Emily, spoke first. "Hey, Liam," she said, fidgeting with the strap of her backpack. "I just wanted to say, it's cool that you're, being yourself again. I know it must be hard." Liam blinked, taken aback. Thanks." Another student, a boy named Marcus, chimed in. "Yeah, man, I used to think the helmet was just some weird attention thing, but I get it now. We all have stuff we're dealing with." Liam nodded slowly, their words sinking in. For the first time, he realized he wasn't as alone as he had thought. Everyone was carrying something. His was just more visible. The unexpected ally. As the days passed, Liam found himself reconnecting with old classmates. Josh, who had been so critical of Liam's helmet, surprised him by stopping him in the hallway after gym class. "Hey," Josh said awkwardly, rubbing the back of his neck. "I wanted to say sorry. I gave you a hard time about the helmet, and that wasn't cool." Liam studied him for a moment before replying. "Thanks. I appreciate that." Josh nodded, looking relieved. "So, you playing basketball after school?" The team's short a guy. Liam hesitated. He hadn't played since last year, back when he was still part of the popular crowd. But maybe it was time to take another step forward. "Sure," he said finally. "I'll be there." A new beginning. That afternoon, Liam found himself on the basketball court, the familiar thud of the ball against the pavement stirring memories of simpler times. The game wasn't perfect. He was rusty, and his teammates were a mix of skilled players and enthusiastic novices. But it felt good to be part of something again. Afterward, as the team sat on the sidelines catching their breath, Josh turned to Liam. You're still pretty good. You should come to practice more often. I'll think about it, Liam said, surprised by how much he meant it. Clara showed up toward the end of the game, clapping as the team wrapped up. Not bad, Harper, she teased. Looks like you've still got it. Liam grinned, feeling a flicker of the confidence he used to have. Maybe he wasn't entirely the same person he had been before the helmet, but that wasn't a bad thing. He was learning to be someone better, a test of resolve. Not everyone was supportive of Liam's transformation. One afternoon, as he walked to his locker, a group of students snickered behind him. Look who finally decided to show his face, one of them said, loud enough for Liam to hear. He paused, his grip tightening on the straps of his backpack. The old Liam would have ignored them, retreating into silence. But the new Liam, the one Clara believed in, turned to face them. Yeah, I did, he said calmly. Got something to say about it. The group exchanged uneasy glances before one of them muttered, Nah, man, it's cool. As they walked away, Liam felt a surge of pride. He hadn't let their words define him. For the first time in months, he stood tall, unafraid of being seen. The art of letting go. The turning point came during another visit to the community center. Mrs. Bennett approached Liam with a special request. We're starting a mentoring program for the younger kids, she explained. I think you'd be a great fit. Me? Liam said, startled. Why? Mrs. Bennett smiled. Because you've been through something and you've come out stronger. The kids need someone who understands what it's like to feel different. Liam hesitated. The idea of sharing his story with others was daunting, but maybe it was time to use his experiences to help someone else. I'll do it, he said finally, sharing his story. The first mentoring session was nerve-wracking. Liam sat in a small circle with a group of kids ranging from ages 8 to 12. Most of them were shy, avoiding eye contact. To break the ice, Liam held up his helmet. You're probably wondering why I brought this, he began. A year ago, I wore this every day. Not because I needed to, but because I was scared. I thought it would protect me from getting hurt. The kids listened intently as Liam shared his journey. The mistakes he had made, the fear he had felt, and the people who had helped him find his way back. By the end of the session, several of the kids had opened up about their own struggles, from bullying to family challenges. One boy, a quiet 10-year-old named Noah, approached Liam afterward. Thanks for telling us your story, Noah said. It makes me feel like it's okay to be scared sometimes. Liam smiled, his heart swelling with gratitude. It is okay, he said. As long as you don't let it stop you. Reflection and growth. That evening, Liam sat on his bed, staring at the helmet resting on his desk. It no longer felt like something he needed. It felt like a relic of a chapter he was ready to close. He picked it up and walked to his closet, placing it carefully on the top shelf. It wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about moving forward. The poster for the school talent show seemed to call to Liam every time he walked past it. Bright red letters announced, Show us your talent. Sign UP by FRI Day. Below the text was a list of students who had already signed up. Clara's name was, unsurprisingly, among the first. For days, Liam avoided thinking about it. Performing on stage, sharing a piece of himself in front of the entire school. The idea made his chest tighten. But every time he glanced at the poster, Clara's voice echoed in his mind. True courage is choosing not to hide. The push to sign up. Clara brought up the talent show during lunch on Thursday. So are you gonna sign up? She asked, biting into an apple. Liam looked at her like she'd suggested he wrestle a bear. Absolutely not. Oh, come on, Clara said, rolling her eyes. You don't have to sing or dance. You could do anything. Tell a story, read a poem, juggle flaming torches. I don't juggle flaming torches, Liam replied flatly. Well, you've got time to learn, Clara teased. Seriously though, I think it'd be good for you. You've already come so far. Why not take one more step? Liam didn't answer, but her words stayed with him. That evening, he stared at the talent show flyer pinned to the school's website. His finger hovered over the sign-up button for what felt like an eternity before he finally clicked it, preparing for the stage. The next day, Clara cornered Liam before class. "So, did you sign up?" she asked, practically bouncing on her toes. "Yes," Liam admitted, "but don't make a big deal out of it." Clara squealed and hugged him before he could stop her. "This is going to be amazing. What are you going to do?" "I have no idea," Liam said honestly. "Well, you'd better figure it out," Clara said. "The show's in a week. Need help brainstorming?" Liam hesitated. Part of him wanted to decline, to keep the process private. But he knew Clara's enthusiasm and creativity could make all the difference. "Okay," he said, "but no flaming torches." Finding his voice. Over the weekend, Clara came over to help Liam brainstorm. They sat on the floor of his room, surrounded by crumpled sheets of paper filled with half-baked ideas. "You could play guitar," Clara suggested. "I don't know how to play guitar," Liam said. "Okay, what about reciting something? A poem, a story?" Liam frowned, thinking, maybe, a story, but not just any story. It has to mean something. Clara nodded. "What about your story? The helmet, the journey, everything you've been through." "It's powerful, Liam. People need to hear it." The thought terrified him. But deep down, Liam knew she was right. Sharing his story could be the final step in letting go of his fears. The rehearsal, the week leading up to the talent show, was a whirlwind of preparation. Liam wrote and rewrote his speech, pouring his heart into every word. Clara listened patiently to each draft, offering feedback and encouragement. By Thursday night, Liam felt as ready as he'd ever be. Standing in front of his mirror, he practiced his delivery, imagining the sea of faces that would soon be staring back at him. "You've got this," he told his reflection. But the tremor in his voice betrayed his lingering nerves. The day of the show. The auditorium buzzed with excitement as students, parents, and teachers filled the seats. Backstage, Liam paced nervously, clutching a crumpled copy of his speech. Clara found him just before the show began. "You okay?" she asked. "Not even a little," Liam admitted. Clara placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're going to be amazing. Just speak from the heart." Liam nodded, her words steadying him. As the MC called the first performer to the stage, he took a deep breath and tried to focus. The moment of truth. When Liam's name was finally called, the auditorium fell silent. He stepped onto the stage, the spotlight warm and blinding. His heart pounded as he approached the microphone, his speech trembling in his hands. "Hi," he began, his voice cracking slightly. "For those of you who don't know me, my name is Liam Harper, and for most of this year, I've been hiding." The audience leaned in, their attention rapt. Liam took a deep breath and continued. "A year ago, I started wearing a helmet to school. At first, I told myself it was just to keep people at a distance. But the truth is, I was scared. Scared of making mistakes. Scared of being judged. Scared of being seen." As Liam spoke, he felt the weight of his fears lifting. He told the audience about his journey, the mistakes he'd made, the pain he'd caused, and the walls he'd built to protect himself. He talked about Clara, the community center, and the kids who had reminded him of the power of vulnerability. "And now," he said, his voice steady and clear, "I'm learning that it's okay to be seen, to let people in, because hiding doesn't protect you. It just keeps you from living." The auditorium erupted into applause as Liam stepped back from the microphone, his chest heaving with relief. For the first time in months, he felt truly free. The aftermath. Backstage, Clara was waiting for him, her face glowing with pride. "Liam, that was incredible," she said, throwing her arms around him. "You did it. I couldn't have done it without you," Liam said, his voice thick with emotion. As the night went on, classmates and teachers approached Liam, congratulating him and sharing their own struggles. One teacher admitted that Liam's speech had inspired her to reconnect with an estranged sibling. A freshman said it had given him the courage to stand up to his bullies. Liam realized that his story wasn't just about him. It was about everyone who had ever felt lost or afraid. And by sharing it, he had given them permission to embrace their own vulnerabilities. A final reflection. That night, as Liam lay in bed, he thought about how far he had come. The helmet, once a symbol of his fear, now felt like a distant memory. He had faced his fears, found his voice, and discovered a strength he hadn't known he possessed. The next morning, Liam walked into school with his head held high. For the first time in a long time, he felt like himself. No masks, no barriers, just Liam Harper. As he passed the talent show poster, now adorned with pictures of the performers, he smiled. It wasn't just a reminder of what he had done. It was a symbol of what he could do.